I am here today to show a little bit of love to Ron DeSantis. Unfortunately, we all remember how things kind of went right after his campaign launch, starting with some technical hiccups during an X space with Elon Musk trying to launch the campaign.
Super embarrassing. I was one of the people trying to listen to it, and I kept going, is my internet dropping out? Why am I not able to listen to this? So the start of his campaign was a failure.
Yeah.
It was innovative and very cool, but a massive failure.
Did you guys see the meme that came out about it as well, where like they had like all these historical figures like Hitler and all these people that they put on this?
Yeah, but you know, obviously it was well intended, but it was sort of a sign of things to come for his campaign. Big ideas, powerful people, very poor execution. Things at the beginning, he was actually neck and neck with Trump for a little while. Like it was kind of going back and forth of who was going to be the front runner. After a few weeks, Trump pulled away, and DeSantis fell down to be almost neck and neck with Nikki Haley in a race for third.
But did Ron ever have a chance? It feels like Trump's base is so dedicated and so loyal and now so massive that it doesn't feel like anybody in the Republican Party could have ever actually been foreseeable.
Of course not. If anybody could have come close, it might very well have been DeSantis based on his momentum kind of coming out of COVID era and all the stuff he did in Florida. But unfortunately, the Trump train was unstoppable. As soon as that mugshot of him hit social media, it was over for everybody else.
I mean, the only other person that had as much press as Trump was Vivek. But he aligns very similar in his thinking as the president, or former president, I should say. So there was no chance that Vivek could get to that point where he debates Trump.
Showing how things were going in the Republican primary, Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out before Doug Burgum did. Yeah. So things were not good. Things were not good for our
By the way,
candidates.
Doug Burgum was at Mar-a-Lago this past weekend at a huge fundraiser for Trump. Yep. I mean, some of the names that were rumored to be there are massive names. Tim Scott, Doug Burgum. Well, okay, I can't say massive names and say Doug Burgum. But Doug Burgum was there. Vivek was there. A lot of heavyweights in the Republican Party showing up to Mar-a-Lago this past weekend.
Yeah, and basically everybody but Nikki Haley has kind of coalesced around Trump now to help push him over the finish line. There's VP talks for a lot of them. Basically, they're doing the same thing. Except Kristi Noem, who is a puppy killer. But now it's the same thing that happens in every primary. You drop out, you endorse the main guy, now they're all elbowing for positions in his future administration, potentially. But now that he's back home in Florida, DeSantis is now a different guy. And it's the same thing we always talked about on the show during the primary cycle of, on policy, this guy is a winner. This is the guy who should be leading things. If our Republican politicians were half as good as DeSantis is at policy, we'd be a very different country right now. We had the chance, he had the chance, but unfortunately he was surrounded by a bunch of people who undermined his marketing. His surrogates online all sucked. They're all super cringy. It was a bunch of anti-Trump people who wanted Trump with none of the downsides and tried to find that in DeSantis. But now that he's back home in Florida, and that's where we all live, we all directly benefit from him being governor. I just wanted to shout out a couple of the things he's been up to just in the last maybe 3-4 months. I have a quick list of things and some photos of what he's been up to, because he's been on an absolute tear, setting the standard for what reasonable, effective, conservative governing looks like. So just in the last couple months, he has implemented criminal penalties for squatting, which is a huge problem all over the country that nobody's doing anything about. He made it so if you own a property and there's someone squatting in it, you just get the cops to get them out. Simple as. Just recently, he declared that Satanism is not a religion and therefore can't have chaplains in public schools. Nice. No other leader seems to be willing to take on the Satanists for some reason. A bunch of cringy Reddit atheists who like to pretend to worship Satan. No one else will declare that's not a legitimate religion because they were trying to get chaplains in schools to talk to your kids about Satanism. Awesome. He's outlawed urban camping to crack down on the homelessness problem. He Just a couple days.
That's what they call the homeless
Yes.
urban campers.
camping.
That's so
What
bad.
do they call it when they're in San Francisco? Because that's not urban. That's city.
Yeah, that's just
City
City
camping.
camping.
those are just
Yeah.
residents.
Glamping.
Yeah.
That looks glamorous.
All the urban campers were moved to a different campsite when Xi Jinping showed up, but that's neither here nor there. Just a couple days ago, DeSantis outright banned any attempt to bring refugees from Gaza and resettle them in Florida because the Biden administration is considering doing that. They want to take a bunch of Gazans who already have connections to the U.S. and just relocate them here and like, all right, you guys are granted refugee status now.
Not all of those people are chanting death to America, but we've seen videos of people in Gaza chanting that, and Biden wants to bring them here and allow them refugee status in America.
He said dead on arrival in Florida, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
He opposed a rewrite to Title IX legislation that was going to allow men and women's sports. That's not happening in Florida. He implemented harsher penalties for grooming and child sexual offenses, a thing very few people are doing. They called him a monster for, oh, look, he's implementing the death penalty. This is going to be used to crack down on gay people. Well, if you're a gay person who touches kids, maybe. If you're not, then this doesn't affect you. He cracked down on porch piracy and retail theft by implementing harsher penalties for that. No one else is doing it. He banned DEI from teacher prep courses so that now we cannot educate teachers in divisive diversity politics. Just like 2-3 days ago, he made it so you can file a complaint with the executive agencies if you're debanked for political reasons, which is a huge problem where banks are dropping people associated with certain conservative groups. 2 days ago, a few days ago, banned lab-grown beef and other meat products, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with how this works. It's a meat alternative where they take cells from a living animal, put it into a vat, and feed it amino acids and nutrients until it grows into a giant sheet that they then harvest and form into something that looks like a meat product.
Yum.
It's
So
disgusting.
fake meat.
Yes, it's fake meat. And he banned it. Exactly. You are fake meat. Florida is now one of 4 states that has banned lab-grown beef. But when he stood up and presented the legislation, it's actually in one of the pictures that we just showed in that collage there. It's Save Our Beef. You can see up in the top left. Does that logo look familiar to you right there?
The World Economic Forum.
Because not only was he pitching it as a defense of Florida's ranchers who are, going to be driven out of business if fake meat takes off, but he also said it's a pushback against the global elite and the World Economic Forum who want us to eat bugs and fake meat. He said all that globalist stuff is dead on arrival. Excuse me. He's banned CBDCs. He's prevented the Chinese Communist Party from buying land in Florida. And just recently, as Haiti has collapsed into gang warfare, essentially becoming even more of an anarchist state than it already was.
Failed state.
It's not even a country anymore. It's just a gang hideout like it used to be back during the pirate times. He authorized the National Guard and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, a bunch of other law enforcement groups to crack down on that and interdict boats coming over from Haiti. We have a picture of that as well. They captured this boat not too long ago, just off the coast, with apparently 30 Haitian migrants hiding out underneath it. These were human traffickers trying to smuggle people in. They got 30 of them. I believe there was also weapons and drugs found on there.
Expensive boat.
Yeah, nice
that is
boat,
not.
though.
Now,
Usually, when you see them coming from like Cuba, it's like some Gatorade bottles
the
wrapped in
raft.
duct tape.
Yeah.
And they float over. But that is like
They have a Yeti in the back there.
This is a very, very high quality operation here of trying to smuggle people there. They got 30 of them. There was actually 35 on board when they left Port-au-Prince, but they got hungry on the way over. So all the rest of them were gone.
Barbecue?
Yeah. So those are a few things that DeSantis has been up to. That's just in like the last 3 to 4 months. This is the example of what conservative leadership looks like and what we should be doing. Because at a national level, we talked about on the last episode, the Republicans just got together and passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. Seems to be the only thing that our government can agree on is that we need to be doing more to defend Israel and cracking down on free speech if it affects groups we would rather see protected. But we need more of this. We need more people who are not afraid to wield the authority of the government correctly and effectively. Because basically, anytime you put a Republican in power, like, oh, I want power taken away from the government and given back to the people. I want, decrease the size of government. We shouldn't be able to do anything. We should basically just run the post office and maybe the military.
Good.
But when we have government power that is used correctly, we see the benefits of it. There's a reason why everybody's moving to Florida, and all you idiot out-of-towners who are driving up the price of housing to the point where we can't get out of apartments.
Well, I appreciate that because my house has gone up $60,000. And
yeah,
I was like, wow. I went and I looked the other day. I went, well, thank you, Ron DeSantis, and all the people from New York still fleeing those states to come to Florida.
If you are if you're a homeowner here, it's a great time to sell and move out of the state. If you're like me, who's not trying to leave the state but would like to stop renting an apartment sometime,
good luck.
Good luck to all of us.
Are we done praising him?
Yes.
Okay, good. Look, look. I mean, he's probably one of the greatest governors of all time. Better than Jeb Bush, better than Bill Clinton, probably better than Schwarzenegger, even though he's cooler. For the first time, because we did an episode on the presidential debate, remember? For the first time in human history, and this is not to put you down, Rob, a comedian was urgently needed. Unless he becomes funny, like if you see Ronald Reagan, he was hilarious. You can go online, search for his jokes. Hilarious guy, super funny. Ron DeSantis is not funny. Like if I was his campaign leader, I would have got him like the best comedian. I would have gone Tim Dillon, Rob right here,
Vincent O'Shana,
to make him funny. Like you cannot be the president of the United States if you're not funny at all. Like for example. He had a chance, and he should have taken it. When we did the interview here, he was given boots. If you can't take that joke, how are you going to deal with Hamas? How are you going to deal with the communists? How are you going to deal with the Haitians and barbecue and this and that? Like, there's nothing that can take power away from you, like something that you're sensitive about. So he should have taken the boots, taken his shoes off, put them on camera, and bam, it's done. And we forget about it. But he never took that joke. And we all know that you can't be, like, 5'11" doesn't exist. I don't know anyone that is 5'11".
I'm 5'11".
You're 5'11".
So
You're not
am I.
5'11".
What do you
You're
mean
not
it
5'11".
doesn't
Bob and I are
exist?
exactly
It's
the
the
same height.
one before 6 foot. What are you talking
No, it doesn't
about?
exist. You're either 6 foot or lower.
5'10".
5'11"
You're either
is a
6
lie.
foot or you are a woman.
Yes,
There's no in between.
5'11" is a lie. Nobody can be 5'11".
Oh wait, so did he react poorly because this is before my time at Valuetainment?
He just went, okay.
He
Thank you.
I can't take those.
Yeah,
for
in his
campaign
defense, what he said was, I can't accept gifts, which is true, but it could have at least been... We were trying to give him the opening, I believe is what Patrick was doing, of like, okay, there's all these jokes about you with the boots. Just... I don't know, take your shoes off and confirm how tall you are.
Yes,
like
and,
that kind of
and the
thing.
lead up to it was literally the days leading up to that interview was where he had been seen at one of the debates wearing what looked like lady boots. And it was all over the internet. So to have a guest of that magnitude who everybody is talking about wearing ladies' shoes, how could you not bring that up?
And
so Pat brought it up.
I'll be honest, I'm not convinced that he was wearing lifts because I saw him at another debate wearing the boots, but he was rotating his foot in a way that would have been impossible unless his foot was snapped in half in the middle of the shoe. Because that's the point. Everybody was looking at the shoes after that.
I know.
So
we're still talking about it right now.
We're still talking about it. He's not even running for president anymore.
But and he also, first of all, he's not a cowboy. Right? Like, no offense to him. Like when George H.W. Bush wore cowboy boots and Wrangler jeans and went to the ranch, I got that. Born and raised in Texas. This dude's born in Dunedin, which is right outside of Tampa. I don't know if you're familiar. It's not exactly the cattle ranches of New Mexico. It's the beach. So when he's waddling around pretending to be a cowboy wearing his cowboy boots, it struck me as odd. And you had mentioned funny and comedic, and something that he lacked because he was dry. Take a look. This is a clip from Ronald Reagan. After he was, there was an assassination attempt on his life. It was not successful. He's giving a speech, and during the speech, a balloon pops. And listen to his response and how quick Ronald Reagan was. Kelly, please play the video.
By its very existence and character, Berlin remains the most compelling argument for an open world. We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. America missed me.
That is what America loves.
Trump, after who did the bid after killing Abu
Shane Gillis did the whole thing about after we took out al-Baghdadi.
Yeah,
but
he died like a dog. But you have to be funny. You have to be funny. What I would have done, because he could have killed two birds with one stone. There's a conspiracy theory going around in the chat that everyone in the PvD podcast has no legs. So this is what I would do.
What?
I would have taken my feet, put it on top of the table with campaign socks, put the boots on, and then you kill two birds with one stone. Mm-hmm. You never heard this conspiracy theory? Nobody has ever seen Pat's legs.
Oh, wow.
The only thing I'll say on this is if DeSantis is going to be done in 2026, that's when his governorship's over. If I had to pick a job for Ron to do, I would say he would be a fantastic Speaker of the House, because that's where all the legislation comes through. I would love to have him be the one that's writing the bills or what gets up on the docket next. And we have some bangers, I think.
But in order to be the Speaker of the House, do you have to be an elected member of Congress or the Senate?
Technically, no.
Technically, no.
Because we found this out during all the stuff with Kevin McCarthy, where nowhere in the legislation establishing who gets to be Speaker of the House does it say you have to be an active member. It's just traditionally only been that way. That's why they were thinking like, well, let's nominate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They sort of considered like, what if we bring him in? Maybe he could be a great Speaker of the House.
I remember hearing
until he becomes president, and then we find somebody else. Now, obviously, it would be a huge step away from tradition, and we'd have to figure out like they
Rob,
codify it immediately.
I was also thinking about his career to the future because I think he's freaking awesome. He's the best governor ever. Like, I love living in Florida. I love everything that he's doing. Like, I can make fun of him, whatever, but he's one of my favorite politicians of all time. But you know where I would put him? I would put him as a Kissinger figure.
Yeah.
He will make an awesome,
So he'll murder innocent civilians across the globe?
Advocate for the takeover of sovereign countries.
But the one that makes
the
the calls and the decisions in the back rooms, he will be awesome because he has a big brain and he can read good.
Yeah, well, you look at the role.
He can read good.
You look at the role Vivek Ramaswamy has stepped into now that he's also suspended his campaign. You don't see a lot from Vivek anymore. He's kind of going around, but he's not like heavily involved in Trump's campaign. But Trump comes out with all these talking points. Like, for example, maybe a couple months ago, he's talking about how we're never going to allow CBDCs in the United States. We're gonna stop it. Trump didn't know what a CBDC was before Vivek suspended his campaign and joined his.
Correct.
Trump probably found out what a CBDC is, centrally banked digital currency, 5 minutes before he made that speech, where he walked out. Vivek whispered, okay, so you got to talk about these things. They're called CBDCs. They're really bad. It's a globalist. They'll just go out and say it, and everyone's going to love you. He goes out and says it, and sure enough, everybody loves it. DeSantis kind of needs the same role, and I know he's considered a VP contender, as is Vivek. I don't think either one of them is likely to fill that role because they're too big of a personality, potentially challenging Trump. But I think both of them have promising futures in Republican politics. But in the meantime, what we need is people like DeSantis, even at the state level, who we can't continue in the country with just one guy like him. Every red state governor needs to be doing that. During COVID, Greg Abbott would basically just do whatever DeSantis did 2 weeks later, and that's why Texas was also considered good on COVID. But Abbott's kind of moved away from that now and is, doing some things okay with border, but a lot of other stuff that kind of sucks.
Well, but when it comes to the border, they have now Texas is the least amount of crossings daily as opposed to Arizona and now California, which are seeing upticks. So at least he's doing something.
Exactly. And
but to your point about DeSantis, the whole reason all of us are here, we all live in the state of Florida. I've lived here for 10 years before. I mean, I was living here when DeSantis went up against Gillum, and thank God that drug addict mess didn't win. Did you see what the photos of that guy passed out with pill bottles all over? And he lost. Imagine if he won. How hard that guy would have
Remember,
partied
he
won.
He didn't lose once. He lost twice because they counted that whole election 2 times. But as they say, you can't spell Gillum without 2 L's, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I do.
Think about that one.
I do love what Ron does. I feel safe in Florida. My family feels safe. There's a reason why people continue to flee to the state, because it is one of the few states that seems to remain free in the union and where you are actually going to be, as shocking as this sounds, if you commit a crime, you will be punished. How odd is that to hear? But that is what will happen if you do that shit in Florida.
It's law enforcement. It's stopping globalist policies, and it's stopping the encroachment of the federal government into the rights of average human beings who are just trying to live as everyone in the country should.